Um, when you think about food peace, we think about a feeling inside. It's the way you relate to food. And if you're feeling peace, you're feeling in control, you're feeling abundance, right? That food's never going away. And you're feeling that you can trust yourself in relation to the choices that you make with food. So when we stop, when we're not having food peace, we're having conflict. We're having distrust with ourselves. We're having worry that we won't be able to control ourselves with food. So the top 3 things that keep us from reaching food peace, the first one is diet mentality, right? When it comes to diet mentality, what happens is you start a diet because you think, I need to get closer, I need to change my body. So you start a diet, which means you restrict. And as you restrict, pretty soon you start to feel deprivation. And as you feel deprivation, you start to crave foods. And then you give in to those cravings, and the result is you then feel guilt, you feel insufficient, and so you think the solution is to start a new diet or to really buckle down and really force yourself to do this again. When you work this cycle, what happens is that the survival response in your brain is to feel that food is scarce. As soon as you say, this is off limits, or I won't do this, it trips a survival response in your brain that actually makes it more difficult to be at peace with food. So your brain, and let me grab this real quick. Let me show you this. This is a model of the brain. And there's a picture, not for those of you on Facebook, but for those of you who are watching the replay through Zoom, there is a model here of a brain. So here's the cross section of the brain. Up here, this whole tan area up here is the neocortex. This is where higher conscious thinking function goes on. Up here in the prefrontal cortex, this is where you make choices. In your lower brain, meaning the lower parts of your brain, and this is conceptual, the brain's much more interconnected and complex than this, but the lower brain is your emotional state, or your limbic system, and your brainstem and your cerebellum. These are the parts of the brain that are involved in, am I safe and am I accepted? These are lower brain functions because it is important to us as human beings to be safe. Our lower brain is survival obsessed, that when you go on a diet and take something that is fundamental for survival and say, I'm only going to have so much, or I can't have these certain food groups, consciously up here in our conscious thinking stuff, we know that doesn't mean that food's going away. But to our lower brain that doesn't have the ability to reason, our lower brain that's survival obsessed, when we diet, a survival response is flipped in our brain. And the response is that we then hyper focus in on food. Many people report that as soon as they go on a diet, they report an increased obsessive thinking about food. And this has been shown in study after study after study. Those who have heavily dieted and restricted calories for a period of months, they exhibit the same symptoms in their behavior and how they relate to food as people who have literally gone through the Holocaust and have been starved. So diets actually are not compatible with our lower brain thinking. They are just not compatible. They make it hard in the long run to be successful in how we relate with food. They keep us from finding peace of mind with food. So diets are the number one thing, and diet mentality is the number one thing that keeps us from finding peace with food. So what I recommend, my number one thing I tell people, if they want to release weight off their body, they want to release stored energy off their body, I say don't go on a diet. And here's the thing is that society, our culture, diet mentality, doesn't give us something else except a diet to do. Well, if I want to lose weight, right? But dieting is the only solution that the world gives us, and dieting trips a survival response in our brain. What can I do instead? Well, there is a process to being in harmony with your mind, in harmony with your body, in a way that you can be in flow with your body to release weight off your body. There is a way to do that. I teach women how to do that in my larger Freedom with Body and Food program.